Welcome to Small Arms Solutions. We've recently done some videos when we actually look at AR type rifles that are utilizing AK type magazines. This is actually a really significant modification that makes this gun actually function properly with the 7.62 by 39 millimeter cartridge. We're going to talk a little bit about the history of this and really where it came from. We're going to go back into the late 50s, early 1960s with the original Armalite company. When the original Armalite company developed the AR-10 and was unsuccessful with it here in the United States, it was actually taken over to Holland in artillery in Richtingen. I believe that's how it's pronounced. Started actually doing some production of the AR-10 rifles. They had done some prototypes actually that utilized the 7.62 by 39 millimeter cartridge along with the AK type magazines. They never left actually the prototype configuration. They do still exist. In fact, I think Reed Knight probably still has them in his museum down in Titusville. That was really the last time that it was looked at. Now we want to fast forward to probably the 80s, mid 80s, late 90s, or in that time period in there, where there was an interest in converting the AR type rifles over to 7.62 by 39. So at that time, obviously this technology was known about using the AK magazines, but they wanted to make it as easy as possible. They wanted to make it as compatible as possible without having to redo the lower receivers. So what they did was they converted the barrels over to 7.62 by 39. The bolts, they actually took a standard 5.56 bolt and machined out the breech face to accept the 7.60 by 39. And there you had it. However, there was one Achilles heel, and it was always the magazine. The actual way the cartridges feed in the magazine of a 7.62 by 39 is very different from the way a 5.56 millimeter does. We're going to take a quick look right now at actually why the magazine issue exists. This here is the actual AK magazine, as many of you will know. Notice that it has the notorious banana-looking shape to it. Contrary to popular belief, this was not done for cosmetic purposes. This was due to the actual way the shot column actually stacks in the magazines. The 7.62 by 39, as you can see from this cutaway right here, has an extreme taper to it. So as you can see, the way these actually sit in the magazine is actually the shape of this magazine. Now what we have here is actually the standard AR magazine. As you can see how you have a straight portion here, then it starts to curve out a little bit. Well, as you can see by this cutaway, this is not the natural way that this actually stacks. You can see how these rounds do not feed up properly. The nose is actually down, the nose is actually up on the bottom here. This is not the natural way that these rounds actually will feed. So, as you would expect, just physics alone, the AR type magazines have had major feeding issues and reliability. In the 90s, Colt came out with their series of the Colt Sporters that actually fired the 7.62 by 39. They introduced it for the hunting market. And they introduced them with straight magazines. Now those straight magazines only held 4 or 5 rounds, and it would cycle those reliable, but any more than that, there was problems. Colt had went ahead and started selling them, like that, because as they left the factory, they were somewhat reliable. They were reliable enough for use for hunting. Well, of course, now the aftermarket companies come, get involved, and they start making magazines that are a hybrid. They're AR on the top and AK on the bottom. These were an absolute complete nightmare. They caused feeding problems in the gun. The problem actually wasn't the rifle itself with the reliability firing this cartridge. It was feeding. It was the actual magazine feeding device. So Colt actually went on to actually stop production of these because they had a significant amount of problems. Other companies, on the other hand, they continued with it. Several of the major manufacturers had worked with the manufacturing companies who do the magazines, such as C Products Defense, and so forth. And they've tried to improve the magazines so they actually would be reliable. Up to this day, you're pretty hard pressed to find a truly reliable AR-based 7.62 by 39 millimeter magazine. It's very difficult to find. I've tested all of them. Now I have some magazines here, for instance, C Products Defense, and I have some D&H Tacticals that work. They work pretty reliably. Would I trust them as a combat rifle? Absolutely not. But they somewhat get them to work. So now we're going to move forward into looking at the additional companies who they like the idea of the 7.62 by 39 millimeter rifle, but they wanted to make it more reliable, thus the AK magazine. Previously, we've looked at the CMMG MK47 Mutant, and we've also looked at the Wind and Weaponry MCS, which are both AR-based rifles that fire the 7.62 by 39 with the AK magazines. This is the next one that we're going to look at. This is actually manufactured by Rock River Arms. This particular model is their tactical model. They offer several different types of models depending on what you want. This particular one has the free-floating handguard, and it has a folding front sight base. I tended to prefer this one here. It was more of a tactical model. This originally came out around the 2013 time period. It was introduced. Rock River Arms, again, when they wanted to go after this, they wanted to do it from scratch. They actually wanted to build a truly reliable rifle in this caliber. And they knew that the starting point from that was not going to be a standard AR-15. They knew they had to do something different. And that was going with the AK-47 type magazine. Now, looking at it from an overall, we're going to go over some details here in a minute, but we're going to look at it from an overall. The upper and lower receivers are actual proprietary receivers. Now, when I say proprietary, they're proprietary to use this magazine. The actual bolt carrier group and trigger mechanism is all AR compatible forward. The bolt carrier, you could use any AR bolt carrier group in here with a proper 7.60 by 39 millimeter bolt carrier. The trigger mechanism is all compatible. The forward assist is compatible, but the upper and lower receiver are not. Charging handle is also industry standard, which is one of the things that I actually truly liked about this rifle itself, was that it does have a lot of industry compatible components. Rock River Arms, to my pleasure, I really do like the chrome-plated bolt carrier groups. They actually went with a chrome-plated bolt carrier, which we're going to look at a lot in a little bit. The handguard is actually Rock River Arms produced itself. It's a free-floated handguard, and it has quad 1913 rails. As you can see, I have the actual, one of my staples. I have here the Manta rail protector covers, which does an absolute incredible job at keeping this gun cool. I actually test fired this rifle. It was pretty hot, and I definitely came to appreciate these Manta rail covers. For any of you guys who are interested in Manta products, through my channel here, we'll be able to get you guys a 20% discount on any Manta products. All you got to do is go to their webpage and type in code SAS20, and you'll receive 20% off any of their product line. The front sight base itself here is also Rock River Arms. You actually have 3 different sling swivels on here. You do have also a 1913 rail on the bottom. Going over this rifle, I've been trying to figure out what I would actually critique and what I would say would be an improvement. And the biggest thing that I came up with is the front sight base itself. You've heard me say on many videos that I am not a fan of bolt-on front sight bases. I like to have them actually drilled and pinned. That to me is a massive reliability enhancement. So if I had to really give you a critique on this rifle, I would have loved to have seen this as a solid base, slid over, drilled and tapped, or drilled and pinned in place, so there's no way in how this is ever going to move. However, through the 500 or so rounds I've fired to this so far, it has worked perfectly. So this is just something that I guess I would improve just from a personal perspective of seeing a lot of rifles that utilize bolted on front sight bases or gas blocks move forward during rapid fire. Barrel itself is also manufactured at Rock River Arms. It is a standard military grade steel, 1 turn and 10-inch twist, same as an AK. This is a proprietary muzzle brake, and as you'll see in the videos of me actually shooting it, you'll see this rifle really doesn't move. The recoil on it is pretty damn good. Very, very controllable, very, very reliable. We're looking at the stock here as the proprietary, not proprietary, but it's actually manufactured by Rock River Arms. I like the stock quite a bit due to the fact that, as you see, I got a beard, and my beard does not get caught on this one. So anytime I don't get my whiskers caught, that's a good thing. This is a 6-position receiver extension, so you have 6 different positions. Before we get into the inside of it, we're going to talk a little bit about the magazines. Now, I have numerous different types of magazines, AK-type magazines in my reference collection here. And I will tell you that there is a wide variety of tolerances in these magazines. From widths to the lengths, it's major. To try to come up with one rifle that will utilize every AK magazine out there is literally impossible. I have magazines where I'll have standard AK type rifles here, with the Romanian. I've got some Nodak Spud receivers, Chinese receivers, and of all those magazines, not one of them, other than, well, I do have one rifle that will fit all of them. That's actually the American Tactical AT-47. But that American Tactical has an extremely wide magazine well. A lot of magazines will rattle in it. However, that's the only rifle I have, or I've seen so far, that will accept every magazine in my collection. One of the biggest issues that come to play with these magazines is mostly with the American polymer magazines. I have had major issues with the Tapco magazines, some of the CAA magazines, the Pro Mag, literally not fitting in the magazine wells, period, on a lot of these. And again, it doesn't matter if it's an AR type platform or a regular AK platform, even my Galil Ace. I have magazines that won't work. So if you're going to try to judge one of these rifles, any of these rifles, whether it be the AK or the AR type rifle, based on its 100% compatibility with the magazines that you have, it's just not going to happen. For the most part, all these rifles do like the steel magazines. The steel magazines tend to, I won't say that they're built off the same technical data. There are some variances in them. The biggest difference that I've seen, particularly with this rifle, is the actual length of the tab on the back of the magazine right here. Some of these tend to be a little bit longer than others. With this rifle, I did find that on occasion I would have ones that would hit the trigger guard here and they wouldn't go forward. But that was very, very rare that would happen. So speaking of the compatibility of this one right here, this one does not like PMags. The PMag has been pretty much one of the ones that has worked in all these guns. Many OEMs use them, but this one does not like PMags. The magazine here that came with it, this is actually a polymer magazine that came with it. It's actually got Rock River's name on it. This magazine works. I've had 100% reliability with it. Now, with the exception of one of my East German steel magazines, every one of them worked in it perfect. We tested Bakelite as well. I had both the Chinese and the Soviet Bakelite. Worked excellent. I did have some problems with some of the Bulgarian. The American magazines, forget it. The Pro Mag and the Tapco would not fit in this thing at all. But then again, I had similar issues with the CMMG Mutant. I had ones that would not work in there. So again, I've sort of lost any thought of having a rifle that has 100%. So what's that mean to you? It means when you buy one of these rifles, any of them, you're going to find what magazines work in them, and that's what you're going to use. This one here, again, with the steel, with the Bakelite, with the polymer one that came with it, and the Bakelite cycled 100%. So just to give you a little bit of information on what magazines worked and which ones didn't. So when you're looking at those rifles, you basically have to pick it upon the rifle, and then once you start in with magazines, you're going to see which ones work, and those are which ones you're going to use. The same thing goes for AKs as well these days. As previously stated, my Chinese Norinco, my Nodak Spuds, none of them will all use the same magazine. Some of them I will have those compatibility issues with. I just got to know which ones are which. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at the inside of the rifle and do some close-ups. Looking at the stock, this is actually a Rock River Arms manufactured stock. You do have a nice rubber butt plate. You have sort of a SOP mod type or ACR type profile to a triangular, very smooth. You also have 4 QD attachment points, 2 on each side. The stock itself is a mil spec. It's not a commercial type stock. Receiver extension is mil spec as well, 6 position. The upper and lower receivers are manufactured from forgings, not billets. Very strong, very durable, very proprietary, specifically to the 7.6 by 39 lower receiver. So they're used together. You will not use these with any other receivers. The pistol grip is an A1 type with a nice rubbery texture to it. Very, very, very comfortable. Notice that the magazine release is actually very much ambidextrous. You can hit it from either the right or the left hand side. You do have an oversized trigger guard as well. Safe and fire, forward assist. It does feature the fire cartridge case deflector, so if you're left-handed, you're not going to get hit in the face with any fire cartridge cases. I want you to pay particular notice right here to the notch on the bolt carrier and the receiver. What that is a visual that actually tells you that the bolt is in a locked position. By looking at those, seeing if they're lined up, you can actually tell if the bolt is locked. Now, I don't know what the particular reasoning for this was. It certainly does not hurt. It definitely is a nice feature, but I just wanted to point that one out to you as well. We're briefly going to mention the Optic as well. This is actually the Sig Sauer Bravo 4 Optic. This is a 4-power. This is an extremely high-quality optic. Just at the same time this rifle came in, I received a couple optics from Sig to test. So you're going to be seeing these used on several of the upcoming videos to see how they hold up. But this is a 4-power. Looking on the opposite side, you actually have this is your power button here. By pushing it in, you have a nice throw lever mount on there as well. Also, you have a 1913 rail on top, because again, this is a 4x20. You can put a reflex or a red dot on the top. Excellent so far. Looking on the left side, as you can see, there's no bolt catch. Due to the inherent design of the AK magazine, it's not designed to have any kind of a bolt catch on it whatsoever. So that was actually removed. The safety on here is very interesting because it's this one is unique to Rock River Arms. This actually comes out of Colt, believe it or not. Colt had their enhanced series where they had a 4-way. It was called their enhanced rifle. It was safe, semi-auto, and burst. And basically what that was Colt machined down the stop notches here, and it went all the way around. So this is the exact same pattern that it was. It's actually quite comfortable to actually manipulate. This is something else that can be actually purchased as an upgrade. If you notice the takedown pin and front pivot pin, they have the notch that's cut inside of there, so you can use actually a projectile tip. The charging handle is just typical. There's nothing really out of the ordinary about it. Standard military 1913 upper receiver. And the handguard itself, as we spoke a little bit about before, this is a proprietary design by Rock River Arms. It's an excellent handguard. Again, fully free-floated. This utilizes a carbine-length gas system, as well as, again, we have the bolt-on front sight base, which we discussed earlier. We're going to take the upper and lower receiver apart, and we're going to take a look a little bit at the inside of the receivers. Now, one of the tricks to 7.62x39, especially with an AR, is you have the issue regarding the primer sensitivity. A lot of the Eastern Bloc ammunition, or the 7.62x39mm ammunition, has an extremely hard primer. That's basically the way the AK does that. Is you have a massive hammer spring, coiled spring, and also the firing pin is actually, if you were to compare it to like a AR-15, the firing pin's a little bit longer, a little bit more beef on the end of it. So how Rock River Arms got around this to actually avoid the light striking issues is they put a much heavier hammer spring on there, and what that did was all that really heavy hard primers. It took care of that issue right away. Other companies have actually redone firing pins to actually make them a little bit longer and a little bit wider. But this is just another way you can go about doing it. Now we can see the aluminum receiver here. We can also see the steel pin in here as well, which actually works with the magazine. As you see, you have the steel pin in here, so when you stick the magazine in the bottom, the magazine fits over it. So then when you hit the release, it drops right out. And again, with the steel magazines, this is a steel pin, so it's not going to wear out. So you have a steel pin going through the aluminum. That basically will keep the aluminum from wearing out by having the steel pin there. As you can see, the machining on here is perfect. This is a 2-stage trigger on here. Utilizes a standard buffer. Again, due to the recoil impulse on here, the barrel type, and the fact that it's semi-automatic only, you don't need to have any other kind of a buffer than a standard buffer in there. Looking at the upper receiver itself, you will see it's cut out for an auto sear. I have actually seen some of these versions that have been converted to fully automatic, so that is possible as well. Pulling the bolt out. Now the barrel itself is a chrome-lined barrel, so you have a chrome-plated bore and chamber, which is extremely important because depending on the 7.62 by 39 ammunition you get, there are still lots out there available in the U.S. that are corrosive. So Rock River sort of helped out the customers by giving them a chrome-lined bore and chamber and bolt carrier. That basically what that does is it makes it easier to clean and a lot more corrosion resistant. It does have the extended M4 feed ramps on both the upper receiver and the barrel extension as well, which is certainly a reliability enhancement. Not necessary, but it is a reliability enhancement. Looking at the bolt carrier group itself, we have a standard 5.56 millimeter AR profile bolt carrier group, properly staked carrier key screws. The barrel of the bolt carrier itself is magnetic particle and proof tested, ensuring that you have the highest quality that you can get. The bolt itself is a standard 5.56 millimeter bolt, which is machined out to accept the 7.62 by 39 millimeter cartridge case. This has been one area of concern that many people do have. There's been since they started making these bolts in this caliber, there's been issues with durability. I have not seen this one break yet. I'm using it, and we're going to see how it holds up. That's been one point of contention that was addressed by both CMMG on their MK47 and Colt on their CK901. They had seen this as being an issue, so instead of starting with a 5.56 bolt, they started with a 7.62 bolt or an AR-10 type bolt, and they modified that down to the 7.62 by 39. So only time's going to tell to see how well this bolt works, and we're going to definitely keep our eyes on that. One of the important things about this rifle that I like is the fact that it uses a lot of commonly used components. There's not a lot of proprietary stuff on it. The upper and lower receiver, yes, they are proprietary. The compatibility of this one is a very important thing for me. I do like the fact that I have a standard AR type bolt carrier that I could, if there's ever an issue, I could swap it out with anyone out there. The bolt itself, there are many companies out there that manufacture 7.62 by 39 caliber bolts. So if something was to happen, I would be able to have replacement parts for this. The trigger group, standard mil spec type. I just got to be careful of what hammer spring I put in there. Forward assistance is the same. The charging handle is the same. I can put any handguard I want on it. That's really where this one sort of separates itself from the CMMG Mutant. I'm not going to say I like one better than the other, but I will say this one's going to remain in my collection. I just got to figure out what I'm going to sell to be able to keep it. And the reason I really picked this one over the Mutant was the Mutant has a lot of proprietary parts on it. That if something was to go wrong and say CMMG didn't have access, you didn't have access to CMG components, the bolt carrier, the firing pin, those parts are all proprietary to that rifle alone. So I just tend to like having a lot of different areas or different companies where I can get spare parts from if need be. But for as far as durability is concerned, I've been shooting them both, and I haven't seen any issues with either one of them. So to say one's better than the other, you really can't do that. The CMMG is definitely built much more. It's definitely beefed up for this cartridge. But again, until I start seeing any kind of a failures, you really can't say which one is better than the other. But this one here, what really got me with it was, the craftsmanship was beautiful. The finishing was beautiful. Reliability so far has been excellent. It's been accurate. And I've been very, very pleased with it. Looking at the chamber on here, the extended feed ramps are slightly different from what you would normally expect. Normally what you would expect would be two separate feed ramps. This actually has one large one, which is far more conducive with the 7.62 by 39 millimeter profile projectile. My overall impression of this rifle is excellent. I'm very happy with it. It's not cheap. You're looking at probably a retail price on this one for around $1,500. But you definitely will get what you pay for. But let's see how she shoots. We're going to take her out to the range, and we're going to try some different ammunition and some different magazines. We're going to put a few rounds through the LAR47, which is basically a AR-15 that takes an AK magazine. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please click like and please subscribe. Thank you.